All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Nothing for Nothing Leaves Nothing podcast. I am your host, Lewis. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the Uber and Lyft experience. This was a time where I was in transition between jobs and needed to make some funds. So I decided to do Uber and Lyft. And man, it was an experience. Let's talk about it. To the episode. So let's dive in. Let's talk about this Uber and Lyft experience. So a little background about that. So like I said, was in between jobs at the time. So obviously, while you're searching for jobs, you still got to make money, got bills and stuff to pay, trying to survive out here. So what I did was I started doing Uber and Lyft. So doing Uber and Lyft, man, for me was a little bit different, right? And I say different in the sense of, so at the time I jumped to do it, I was like, okay, I need to find a way to make money just for the time being while I was in between jobs. The thing about that is everybody has a little bit of pride and self-worth. It's nothing against folks that do Uber and Lyft, permanently as their main job. But for me, it wasn't something that I obviously saw myself doing, right? Obviously, military background, qualifications and safety and things of that nature. So obviously you're looking at a different tier of work and job, not doing Uber and Lyft for, a mainstay. But like I said, for the time being, it kept me afloat. So let's talk about it. When I got into doing it, every time I stepped out for a ride, right, all the things went through your head. What kind of day is going to be? What kind of people am I going to have? What kind of experience is going to be? How is my mood? That whole shebang bang, right? But as I started getting into it, what would happen is a lot of times, especially right at the beginning when I would start driving, I would go through this period where it was like I was soaking almost while I was driving, right? Just sad puppy dog status, right? And like I said, the reason behind that was the fact that, I felt and saw myself doing something a lot more than this, right, for that particular time. So obviously losing the job that I had at the time kind of was a punch in the gut, kind of hurt for a little bit. But like I said, needing to make money, this is where I went. But that was a struggle for me every time I did Uber and Lyft. Actually, even now when I still do it, right, I can be game planned and ready for it, but I still have those lows and moments where I'm kind of sitting there like, dag, this is what I'm reduced to doing. This is how I have to make my money now. It's one of those things where it's like, wasn't something that I foresaw in the cards for me. But like I said, nothing against the folks that do it permanently for a living. It's a good way to make a living if you get out there and hustle with it. I made decent money while I was doing it. But it wasn't about just about the rides for me, right? Let's get into the experiences. So when I talk about the experiences is the different people that you have getting in and out the car, some things that you hear, conversations that you hear. If you have multiple people in the car, you have things going on way. If you have just one person in the car, they may speak, they may not, depending on the time of the day, where you're picking them up from. But today we're going to dive into a couple of those stories, man. And the first one I'm going to start with was a young lady that I picked up. And I had picked her up. It was like in the evening pickup, normal, simple ride. Picked her up. She got in the car, normal, casual conversation. She started talking. And one of the things she started talking about was the military. So her dad served, I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, her mom served as well. And she was kind of on the fence about serving. She had been to college, she had her degree, and she was trying to figure out if this was a course of action for her. Now, when things like this come up for me, being a veteran, I always tell people the first thing when it comes to the military is you have to understand that the military is not for everybody. Right. People who joined the military and had severe horror stories about their experiences, how bad it was, how messed up it was. Me, my time in the military, I had some rough patches, but I would say overall my time in the military was great. I got to travel. I got to see things. I got to work with different people, different cultures, see some things that I probably would have never saw. And those experiences help, kind of form me into the person I am today, just the way thought process, things of that nature. But so we driving down the road, obviously, taking her to her destination, and she asked a question. She was like, how do you feel about the military? So, like I said, I gave her my my spiel, right? Hey, it's not for everybody, but if you get in, you can make it do what you want it to do, right? And the one thing I told her was, depending on, which branch she joined, because each branch has its perks, its pros and cons. Me being a Navy vet, we always talk trash about the Air Force and the Army. As a corpsman in the Navy, we always praise the Marine Corps because those are our boys, our brothers. We in the trenches with them all the time, rock and rolling with them. So the Marine Corps and the Navy, for me, always sit a little bit higher on the tier. But so when we talked about it, she said her dad was Air Force. I believe her mom was Air Force as well. So she was kind of leaning towards that way, but she was like, but what about the other branches? So I asked her, okay, what do you want to do? Right? Because when you join the military, that's one of the things that come up, right? Like, what do you want to do in the military? What do you want your job to be? What are you looking to accomplish? What are you looking to gain from it? Things of that nature. So we started having a conversation. And through the conversation, you can see that she was getting super excited. She was like, man, this might be something that I can do. I'm really excited about it. And like I told her, I said, hey, man, by all means, give it a shot, right? Do your research, obviously, get your information that you need and run with it, right? Do your best to get in and accomplish the things you want to accomplish because, like I said, coming out of the military after serving, whether you serve, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever, right? That experience that you gain from that will set you up for success, move on later in life, right? And that's what I told her. So then after we finished the conversation, this is when the conversation always gets it gets rough, right? Because then she was like, well, what I did mention was I do have a fiance. I'm like, okay, nothing wrong with that. Like, okay, what's the issue? So she was like, well, I'm not too keen on leaving him, and I don't know how that would work and what the situation would be. So I was like, okay, so when you talk about joining the military, you have active duty and you have reserves, right? So which one are you trying to go to? So she was like, I'm not too sure. I was like, well, this is something that you might want to dig into and kind of look at, right? Because obviously active duty life is one way and being a reservist is another way. Now, a lot of folks in the military like to joke about the reservists, about them being weekend warriors and stuff like that, right? It is what it is. We all love each other. We all one team, one fight at the end of the day. But we do crack that joke because they're weekend warriors, right? However, so when I broke that down to her, like, okay, hey, look, if you're worrying about, leaving your significant other and not being around and stuff like that, here's from my experience, friends of mine that were in the reserves, what they did, right? So I broke it down for her. She was excited about it. But it was one of those conversations that through driving Lyft and Uber, these kind of topics come up all the time, right? And when I say topics, it's more so topics about like life, like people trying to make a life decision, right? Now, most people will ask, why in the world would you sit down and talk to a stranger about life decisions that you're trying to make? It all depends on the person that you're around, right? Me knowing myself, I am a type of person that a lot of people feel comfortable talking to and having conversations with, right? I don't know, maybe it's my personality, maybe it's just how I approach things, but that tends to usually happen, right? So I finished the conversation with her. She was super excited. Seems like she kind of had a game plan of more so joining the reserves and making that push. But it was one of those things where after having that conversation, I was like, man, you know what? I felt like I did a good deed today. I felt like I was able to help somebody along with their situation. And those are the things like I talked about at the beginning, right? Like having those times where you kind of just like soak and sad puppy dog. Those are the times where after having conversations like that, where I kind of perked up. Okay, cool. This is cool. I can do this. Fun experiences. Let's roll, right? So that was our first story, right? Next story we're going to talk about is a couple that I picked up, right? Now, when you drive, Lyft, and Uber, a lot of times you like to pick and choose your spots, as they say, right? So picking and choosing your spots means picking your times that you drive, right? If you're driving early in the morning, you're going to have a lot of success because people are going to work, right? Driving around midday, not too much, but when it comes to the evening time, that's usually when you get to make some, you really get to make some change, get tips and things of that nature, right? So next story number 2 is going to be about the older couple that I picked up, right? And the reason I'm talking about this particular couple is because I picked them up from a restaurant, right? And obviously they were drinking, hence that's why they used the, Uber Lyft, right? And the conversation, man, that they were having in the back was just something where you just sit there like, what? Like, y'all do know you're in a car with somebody else, right? So pretty much the conversation that came up between these two individuals was the fact that they were out drinking, and I don't know what their dynamic was, but she was not too happy with him about how he was, mingling amongst the folks in this particular restaurant/bar that they were at, right? So they get in the car, and she's like, I'm done with you. I don't want to deal with you tonight, blah, blah, blah. And the guy's like, I don't understand, right? Like, we were having a good time. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just chatting, making conversation, making night, whatever. And she was like, no, you was very particular about this particular person that you were talking to, and you was all about this person, right? So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, he was talking to a young lady, right? Or a lady. And then come to find out, he spent the majority of his time talking to a guy, right? Now, obviously, they have been drinking, so, mindsets and temperaments get a little changed when alcohol is involved. But according to his wife, she was under the impression that he was low-key throwing signs at this dude, right, that he was talking to. And I'm just sitting there like, man, this is a little wild. So as they're going through the conversation, obviously, like most people do, here comes the driver, right, taxi cab confessions. And he's like, hey, man, let me ask you a question, right? Like, if you're out and you're at a bar and, everybody's having a good time, laughing and joking, and you end up talking to somebody and y'all just hit it off, right? And y'all just have a conversation. I'm like, yeah, it can happen, depending on how the conversation is going. So his wife jumps in and she was like, no, the conversation that y'all were having wasn't normal guy conversation. And I'm like, all right, this is getting a little wild, right? So apparently the conversation that he was having with this gentleman was of a sexual nature, right? Now, they didn't go into the particular details, but that was the gist of it. And she was not happy. Literally, this ride was probably, I think, like a 30-minute ride. And this woman was reading this dude the riot act. And it was a little weird because you can tell he was, obviously, like I said, they both were intoxicated. But you can tell, like, they always make jokes about guys having, guys that, have that tendency, right, of, they may portray that they are straight or whatever, but they have a curiosity, I would say, right? And I think this dude might have had a little bit of a curiosity, right? So curiosity, I believe, got the best of him this night, and it just so happened that his wife was there when curiosity got the best of him. And she was not about it, man. Like, she literally rode this dude the whole way home. Like, I mean, she was calling out everything from the way that he dressed to how he spent time getting himself together. Like, she was like, you spend more time in the bathroom than I do. I swear at one point you was messing with my makeup. And I'm like, what in the fudge cake is going on, right? So the dude was like, hey, man, let me ask you a question. Is there anything wrong with a guy taking time on himself to make sure he's right before he goes out, blah, blah, blah? Hey, man, self-care is good for everybody. These are the times when during these conversations, I'm like, I try to stay as neutral as possible, right? But it was just going down, man. So we end up pulling up to the house to drop them off. So she jumps out the car, takes off, and the guy's like, man, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I might have really effed up tonight. And I'm like, so was the stuff that she was accusing you of true? Because if you're saying that you effed up, then that might indicate that you did something wrong. And he was like, man, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have an issue telling another man that they're attractive, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool, got it. There are times where you can see a dude and be like, yo, man, that's a nice looking guy. And it's not no extra stuff going on. And people are like, oh, man, you swinging both sides of the fence, right? It's just normal courtesy for the most part for people to be able to comment each other. But it's about how you make the comment. And that's how I explained to myself, like, man, it's about how you made that comment. Like, and if you and this dude was like all super buddied up the whole night, I can see why your lady would feel that way. Told him, I was like, look, man, I'm not the best person when it comes to relationship advice or experience, but I will tell you, hey, you might want to go in, have a conversation with her. Do your best to try to rectify the situation. So he got out the car, drove off, and that was the end of that ordeal, right? Now, this next one, man, let me tell you. The one concern about people getting in a car, you're always worried about a situation where somebody's getting violent, right? So obviously the first thing you worry about is people getting violent with you, right? So anytime I drove, I have a license to carry. So anytime I drove, always carried my weapon with me, locked, loaded, ready to go, just in case something popped off. Got to be able to protect yourself because I want to make sure I make it home, right? This particular night, I believe it was a rodeo going on out here, right? So it was busy, right? Going between the rodeo, downtown. It was just it was a good vibe, right? It was a good night to make money, put it that way. So I had dropped off these individuals early in the night at this particular spot. I think it was like a little club with something going on, right? So it's full, stuff's going on, line was outside the door, cool. So when I came back around for this ride, I ended up picking up two sisters, right? Now, picking up two sisters, usually no biggie. Sisters get in the car. People like, hey, how's the night going? Blah, blah, blah. Everybody's happy-go-lucky. These particular sisters, it was about to get real. And when I say it's about to get real, they got rowdy. Let's break it down. So, pick them up. They get in the car. Start the ride. We start rolling. Two sisters are having a conversation with each other. You can tell clearly one sister is super intoxicated. The other one might be slightly, but she had her wits about her, right? So she's talking to her sister and she's like, sissy, look, like it was a rough night. There's no need for the night to be completely ruined. Let's just go home and relax and, we can worry about doing some stuff tomorrow, right? The other sister, Ghetto Jones, she was not about it. She was like, I don't give a F. I'm from New York and I ain't worried about none of these bees down here effing with me because I'll whip everybody's ass. Okay, cool. She ready to fight. What happened? So apparently, while they were in the club, altercation broke out between her and somebody else. Stuff got crazy. They exited stage left. Time to roll. So now the whole drive home, the sister that was pissed off ready to fight, she mad. When I say she just mad, she mad. Her sister trying to talk to her, look, let's just try to calm down. Let's not, let's try to figure it out. Whatever, right? Just trying to keep stuff copacetic. This girl was like not having it. She was like, no, F you, F everybody. I'm from New York. I don't give a crap. I ain't scared of nothing down here. I don't care about no being in Texas. They ain't gonna do nothing to me. They can't whip me. So the sister's like, look, you not in New York. You're in a different state, different environment. There's different stuff going on. You have to be mindful of where you're at and what you're saying to people. She was like, you ain't gonna talk to me like that. Who you think you talking to? She's like, I'm just saying you have to be able to calm down and be able to work stuff out. So at some point, they going back and forth. The one sister, because the angry, I'll say the angry sister and the non-angry sister. The angry sister was just not trying to hear nothing, right? So the other sister was like, look, I just need you to calm down. Hey, let me get your phone so I can make sure this is third. I don't know what she was checking on the phone, but that sparked some stuff. So right now the angry sister was like, what are you, a narc? Like, why are you checking my stuff? Why are you trying to go through everything? What, you plotting on me or something? You trying to set me up? Now, in my head, I'm like, how in the world is she trying to set you up if y'all are in the car together, y'all driving down the road to whatever destination y'all going to? How is she setting you up? Who knows, right? They continue to ride, and next thing you know, the conversation of their dad comes up. Now, I'm going to assume from the conversation that they have the same dad, different moms, right? So, the sister's like, hey, look, I guess from their first pickup ride, there was a situation that happened in that vehicle. So that was a precursor to them going in the club and something jumping off. So they were talking about that situation. And she was like, well, dad called to check and find out what was going on. And he just wanted to make sure everything's okay. So now she pissed. She was like, who the F told somebody to call him? Why is he getting involved? Why y'all all trying to gang up on me? Trying to do this? And so she's going off, right? As they progress, guess what? Phone call to dad, right? Now, dad's on the phone, he's on speaker. I guess another woman that he was with was there in the background. I don't know if it was, well, it wasn't the angry girl's mom for sure. I don't know if it was the happy girl's mom, who knows. But that came into a conversation. So now the angry girl's pissed because she was like, how in the hell y'all gonna call to try to check on me and nobody called me and y'all calling this stupid going off, right? So the dad is like, look, you need to calm down. You had too much to drink. When you drink, you get angry. Just go to the house, relax. We'll talk about it in the morning. So now she cursing out her dad. She like, F you. I ain't got to listen to you. You ain't nobody. Matter of fact, get my kids ready. I'm coming to get my kids. They ain't staying with you because y'all trifling. Y'all trying to set me up and always trying to gang up on me. So now the sister's still trying to calm her down. Dad's trying to calm her down. She said one more F you to the father, and the father lost it. And the father went off. He was like, this is what your problem is? You stupid. You always getting drunk. You can't control your liquor. That's why you're in the situation that you're in. And I'm just driving like, bro, what in the fudge cake is going on in my backseat right now? Like, legit, what in the world is going on? So they going back and forth, back and forth. Now the dad's pissed off. He yelling at her. The sister's still trying to keep stuff cool. And then I don't know who the chick was that was next to the dad. She chimed in and said something. The girl went off on her. So as they're going back and forth, the girl got pissed off and was like, look, I'm done with all of y'all. When we get to where we're getting, I'm leaving. I'm getting my stuff. I'm getting out of here. She told Dad, she said, I'm coming to your place and you better have my kids ready because I'm taking my kids and we're going. Where they were going, who knows? But she said she was getting out of Dodge and she was not playing games with these people. They get to the destination, right? They get out the car. Her and the sister start scrapping, right? Now they fighting with each other. And I'm like, look, my name is Bennett. I ain't in it. They got out the car. I drove the hell off and dipset it. I was like, I got to go. But as I'm driving away, I'm like, man, this is wild. Like, they were literally in the back of the car about to go blows. And it went from a sister just trying to keep her sister calm, right? Normal stuff. And I mean, like, this is one of those stories, man, where it's like, for the most part, a lot of people had experience with it. Either a friend, brother, cousin, relative, whatever, right? You go out, everybody having a good time, something jumps off, and you always got that one person in a group, they can't control their liquor, right? So because they can't control their liquor, now all hell breaks loose. They want to fight everybody. They think they're the toughest person in the world. And now the whole night is jacked up because one person had an issue. And that was the issue with these ladies, right? I felt bad for the sister that was trying to be nice because that girl looked like she was going through it. All she wanted was peace and for her sister to be cool, and it wasn't happening. The one nugget that I forgot to mention, which I thought was pretty funny, was when the angry sister was going off on the dad, and she started yelling at the sister again, and then she went off. This is when I said that they got different moms, because the sister was like, I think this was before they called the dad. She was like, he don't like none of y'all. Y'all are all secondary. You're not even his real. Like she was going off, right? Pretty much saying like, y'all not his real kids, y'all are secondary kids, I'm the real kid, y'all don't matter, like one of those type of deals. It was a trip. It was a trip. And I'm just like, all right, this is crazy. But that was the story of as they say, the fighting sisters, right? Now, we've got two more stories we're going to cover before we, end this podcast. But this next one was a little weird for me. Right. And I say weird for me in the sense of, so downtown, everybody, like I said in my original opening of the podcast, I'm in San Antonio, right? So downtown, every section, no matter what city you go, you have a section where you have your LGBTQ folks, your regular folks, whatever. So 9 times out of 10, most of the folks that are attracted to the same sex usually don't try to come on the folks that are not in their circle, I will use as wording, right? Just because they know it, ain't nothing going on there or whatever. But every now and then, people get a little tipsy, they start doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So let's talk about this pickup. So downtown, picked up a person. It was a guy. He was dressed like a lady, right? For the most part, he was still looked like a dude, but he had girl clothes on. Whatever floats your boat. So as we're driving, and it's like probably mid-afternoon, dude was sauced, like completely sauced, right? So got the pickup, I'm like, cool, got the destination, no problem. We start running down the road. Dude's like, man, I can't believe this. I was in there just trying to relax and have a good time and hang out with some people, and here comes this guy, and he's there with his girl, and he's all up on me. Now, I don't know how true the story is or the validity of the story. Who knows? But then the dude commits to pull his phone out, and he was like, see, look at this guy all over me, blah, blah, blah. Guy, yeah, man, dude look like dude all over you, cool. As I'm trying to drive down the road, right? So as we continue rolling down the road, he's sitting in the back, talking about small stuff here and there. I'm halfway paying attention, right? Rolling down the road. So then the dude is like, he was talking about something like, hey, me and my girls, when we get together, we always get to talking. And the one thing we always talk about, because a lot of my friends, my lady friends are white, and a lot of them have things for black guys. Okay, cool. Whatever floats their boat, right? So I'm like, okay, whatever floats their boat. Cool, no biggie. Everybody does their own thing. Let it roll, right? So as we get to commence, he gets to commence to talking, and he's like, the one thing we're going to talk about is BBCs, right? So this is for obviously the mature folks. So if you don't know what a BBC is, I'm not going to say it, but look it up, right? So he starts talking about that. Now, mind you, as he starts talking about this, he was like, so, like, has anybody said anything to you about BBC? And I'm just like, Quiet Jones. Like, not too much, man. It's not really something that I talk to folks about, but, it is what it is, right? After he said that, the whole conversation was just weird, right? So, conversation pretty much ended at that point. Dude was like, I think I'm making you uncomfortable. I guess I need to stop talking about it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, I'm cool, man. It's all good. And then I commenced to put my car in sport mode and speed to the location to drop this dude off, right? I was like, he got to go, right? And it's one of those things, man, where it's like, it's rare that when you're around, a person, right, that you feel awkward or whatever. For me, it usually don't happen. I have been around folks several times, going to hang out with folks, have friends or whatever and stuff like that. But it was just one of those situations where it's like, it's a little weird and awkward, right? Because how do you have a conversation like that? Not really a conversation I'm willing to have, but to each his own, right? So, like I said, commenced rolling that dude to his crib, dropped him off. He was like, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I was like, cool. Spun the car around and took off, right? Probably one of the few rides that I had where I was like, this was awkward. This was very weird. Welcome to Uber and Lyft, right? That was pretty much the gist of that one. All right, now this last one I'm going to talk about before we get up out of here. This one was one that I just sat back and was like, okay, a little crazy, but hey, let it roll. So I had got off of work on my main job, right? Now, by this time, I'm back to working full-time, have my full-time employment, cool, doing this now mainly on the side from time to time. Right, so this is one of the nights where I was like, cool, got off, I'm gonna go drive for a little bit, right? See if I can get a couple of quick rides before I head home and crash out, right? So I get a ride down, probably on the west side or something like that, right? So I get to the spot, I'm sitting there waiting, pulled up, sent the notification, hey, Uber's here, whatever, waiting, right? Person comes out, it's a young lady, right? So she gets in the car. She's like, man, this has been one heck of a night. It's just been crazy, and I'm still freaking drunk. All right, cool, man. Party it up, man. Do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Whatever floats your boat, let it rock and roll. So we get to driving. So she's driving to a location, right? This location has to be the location of a male counterpart. Cool. So as we're driving down the road, she gets to talking, right? Probably because she's a little intoxicated or whatever. So she get to talking. And she's like, man, I'm going to see this guy. And I haven't seen this guy in a while. But, I'm going to see him. And I don't know exactly how this is going to go. But I was just like, screw it. I'm going. Right. So let's get into the backstory. So she commenced to tell me the story about the guy, situation, whatever. So kind of find out. She was going to a dude's house. Right. That is a cousin of a guy that she had talked to at one point. Right. Now, this chick was like, look, I have my hoes that do X, Y, and Z for me. People do this, people do that. Cool, whatever floats your boat. So she was like, she got to the point she met this dude, right? The cousin. Well, yeah, the cousin of the guy whose house she was going to. So she's like, I met this guy. We started talking. Things were going good. And I was like, okay, cool. We getting serious. I'm going to cut all my hoes off. All right. I guess that's what people do when you got hoes and you get into a relationship. You cut them off. Got it. So then she commenced to telling me that they was trying to do some kind of business thing. I don't really know what kind of business thing they were trying to do. Who the hell knows? But however, the cousin, the guy that she was going to see, got pulled into it. And he snitched on his cousin. So she was talking about, I guess she was talking about the cousin to the guy or whatever, about them doing their thing or whatever. And he was like, damn, that's crazy. And according to her, she said, damn, he was like, damn, that's crazy. He got a girl. So now she's like, what? What you mean? So she went and said something to the dude. This is where stuff get really crazy. So apparently she went and said something to the dude about him having a girl. Dude got physical with her. Put his hands on her, whatever the situation was. Damn, it's fucked up. But hey, it happened, right? I don't condone putting your hands on a female for no situation or whatever, if you're a guy and you get into an altercation with a lady, just leave. It's better for everybody. Trust me. So, she had a physical altercation with this guy. He put hands on her, whatever. It didn't stop her from messing with the dude because she continued to mess with the guy or whatever. But now, she was pissed at him. She put him on the back burner. So now the cousin slides in. He started doing his thing. They start doing their thing or whatever. I guess at some point, they stopped talking. So this particular night, for some reason, both gentlemen hit the lady up and was like, yo, come through, right? She said she was texting both of them, going back and forth with the two, trying to see what was going on. And then the one stopped, which was the one that had the girlfriend, when she found out, stopped, and then she was like, look, I'm going to go see this other guy. Now, this is where stuff get crazy. I guess this chick had a past where she was robbing, stealing, whatever the heck she was doing. So, ride almost over, we pull up to the guy's place, right? And she was like, Dag, he still live in the same place. Okay. No biggie. So I was like, is he coming outside to meet you? You know, you want to drop you off at, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, he might take a little bit to come outside. And I'm like, why would he take a little bit to come outside? And she was like, well, he's always worried about being around because he think I'm going to rob him. So I'm like, wait a minute. Come again? This dude told you to come to his crib. Obviously, we all adults here. He called her to come to the crib for a booty call. Got it. But you bring this chick to your crib for a booty call and you're scared about meeting her outside because you're worried about her setting you up and robbing you. Why in the world would you mess with this chick if that's the case? I don't know. This was a trip. I dropped off. She got out of the car. I took off. I think that was my last ride for that night, right? So, as you sit here and we go through these stories, right? You see the different variables, I would say, in the different kind of tempos you get from doing, Uber and Lyft. I say Uber and Lyft because at one point I was doing Uber and then I would switch between Lyft and go back and forth, right? Just depending on which one was bringing in the work faster at the time. But when doing this, it's like you come across some characters, man. Like, just like that, like the stuff with the girl at the end, right? Like, cousins, okay. Episode of Jerry Springer or something. I guess that's what we got going on, but it is what it is, man. Whatever floats your boat. The older couple with the husband might possibly having some tendencies. Another situation, right? How often do you see those situations when you're out somewhere and something jumps off, especially when alcohol's involved, right? People get to drinking and then people start feeling all extra free and brave, right? So people start doing stuff. And then you got a situation with the sisters, man, like, that's something that you see normally. Like, usually you see that play out on the street. Like, legit play out on the street. People just, so one person's drinking, get mad and angry, they want to fight the world, think they can beat the world, and then everybody else is pretty much collateral damage at that point, trying to make sure that everything is copacetic. It happens, man. But I will say, I haven't done Uber and Lyft in probably a few months, right? And will I go out and do it again? Obviously, yes. I mean, I have more stories for days just from the time that I did it. I think I was at that time when I was doing it for probably like maybe 4 to 6 months, give or take. And I mean, it was just rapid fire, man. You had all kinds of stuff, like just picking up people, hearing all kinds of stuff. And a lot of it is, man, you get some characters getting in and people just got stuff going on, man. And it's just life, right? Life goes on for everybody. Everybody's life is not the same, and everybody's life is a little bit different. But when doing Uber and Lyft, a lot of times you end up intertwining with people's life, right? Like when I talked about the young lady that was asking about herself with the military, that was an opportunity for me to, kind of give her some information, try to help guide her along as best I could. And I've several stories of those where people get in the car, they have something going on, somebody's having a bad day, sometimes they just want to talk or they just want to vent, right? You're that person, right? I used to say when I was in the Navy, being stationed with the Marines, as a corpsman assigned to a Marine group, you end up being a brother sometimes, a mama, a daddy, father, right? Like, you kind of go through the whole family spectrum, right? Because you are their go-to person, right? Medical stuff going on, you're the person that they feel most comfortable with a lot of times, and they end up talking to you about a lot of stuff. So that was the Uber and Lyft experience, man. Got some more stories for it. Probably share a couple of those down the road. With the next episodes coming out, we're going to start diving into some stuff, man. You know, some relationship talk, some viewpoints on certain things when it comes to relationships or just interactions with folks, society, right? Just how things are playing out, how people are interacting with each other, people agreeing to disagree, expectations, people having expectations of others, and sometimes expectations not being met. So I appreciate you guys listening. Please like and subscribe, comment when you can, and I look forward to seeing the feedback. So I will see you guys on the next go around. Thanks for listening.